Welcome everybody. It's great to see everyone here today on this nice spring day, as we were talking about earlier. We've got an excellent webinar coming up today from Johnny and Philippa on de-risking scientific innovations, but I'm just going to take speaker's privilege and just first of all set the webinar in context and tell you a little bit for 2 minutes about our industrial biotechnology innovation catalyst. So I'm Aileen Miller. For those of you that don't know me, I am the program director of the IBIC Catalyst and PI and academic in Manchester. And our IBIC program is funded through EPSRC. It's one of the mature clusters funded through Place-Based Impact Acceleration Account grant. And we are about midway through our endeavours, led by the University of Manchester, co-created with the University of Liverpool, and loop in all the other HEs across our Northwest region, including Manchester Met, Liverpool John Moores, and the University of Salford. Our mission is to generate and create and help grow a Northwest region where industrial biotechnology / engineering biology is really supercharging the growth of careers, businesses, and all helping to grow and build that regional bioeconomy, all whilst delivering that low carbon or low net new carbon economy. We use our £5 million to catalyse academic industry partnerships to get knowledge exchange, and we also help and support ideas that are bubbling up in the university sector to get them out and commercialised and create commercial ventures, but also societal ventures from everything from policy to regulation to techno-economics to scale up to engineering biology, your biocatalyst in a current manufacturing process. We have a range of different webinars online. If you fancy some bedtime watching, we have our YouTube channel, and you can go back and see our back catalogue of webinars that have been viewed by, I think it's over 850 people now across the piece. A great selection of some academic activity, some commercial activity, and some support to help go between the two activities. And I'm delighted today that we have got Johnny Habchi and Philippa Hart from the Medicines Discovery Catapult, and they're going to talk to us today about de-risking scientific innovations. So without any further ado, I'll hand over. I think Johnny is going to kick things off for the webinar today. So hopefully we will be able to share the slides okay, and we'll hand the floor over to Johnny. We'll take time for Q&A at the end. So just in case you forget your question when you come to the end, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and we can take them at the end. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Johnny. Over to you.
Thank you, Aileen. I don't think I can share, actually. I don't have the right to share anymore. Can we get this back?
I think we spoke too soon earlier.
Yeah. Right, let me... Johnny. Sorry, it's just been a bit slow. Make a presenter. Hopefully that should work for you.
There we go. It's always that moment, that 30-second window between pressing the button and getting it to happen. So excellent. We're ready to go. Over to you now, Johnny. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aileen. Well, first of all, thanks, Aileen and the IBIC team. It's been a pleasure to be in contact with you over the last weeks and months, and for this great opportunity. And it's a pleasure to be connected to everyone here on this call. So as Aileen mentioned, today's presentation is really focused on why de-risking scientific innovations to unlock the medicines of the future is really important. This is something that we have focused on as a UK national organisation at Medicines Discovery Catapult for, I would say, almost a decade now, as part of our vision to support the UK sector, the UK economy, but also shape drug discovery for patients' benefit. So, what we would like to do today is really take you through a journey. So first, we will tell you what drug discovery actually looks like today. This is not the textbook version. It has gone through significant transformations in recent years. But then also tell you why early stage innovations are absolutely crucial and central to it. And then we'll tell you a little bit more about the barriers and the challenges in developing therapeutics and where things tend to go wrong. And finally, we'll actually say what helps innovations move forward, including how we at Medicines Discovery Catapult support drug discovery innovations to get them closer to patients. So we really hope you would enjoy this webinar and find it useful. So let's start with the reality of drug discovery. This is probably known to most of you, but it's always good to start from the baseline. So we all know the headline numbers. It takes roughly 10, 15 years and over $2 billion to get drugs to the market. And the success rate is quite low, talking about 90% failure. We know also that there are a lot of current efforts to reduce these numbers using AI, machine learning, but the numbers haven't really changed significantly recently. And then if we look at the major drivers or the reasons for these clinical failures, so efficacy, obviously drug efficacy is one of them, safety, tox, and lack of commercial and strategic planning are all major drivers contributing to these failures. And at Medicine Discovery Catapult, we do really work with early stage innovations. So all the way from the blue sky research, I would say, through the preclinical, but also contribute to bridge the translation from the preclinical to clinical. And we aim to get companies through their next value inflection points faster and safer. So it's really about addressing early stage risks, about risks that are linked and could drive late stage failures. You can think about a weak hypothesis or a missing biomarker or a target that's not really validated properly, but even lack of clarity on what success would look like commercially and clinically. And really, this is following a very simple but important idea that risk should not be something we manage at the end. It's something we should design around from the beginning. So the medicine discovery side of things is really high risk process because it has a lot of interconnected components of complex tasks, and that requires a wide range of knowledge, skills, and capital and capabilities to manage effectively, but also carries intertwined scientific, regulatory, operational, and economic risks. So if you think about it, translational models, which are supposed to be predictive of human biology, they are uncertain in a range of disease areas. We have complex regulations and manufacturing as examples, and all of this really make discovery especially fragile. And the result of this could be a high risk, low return dynamic, where good ideas, good scientific innovations do not necessarily progress, but also because high risk shapes behavior. So we see investors becoming more cautious, and partners would wait long and ask for more data to be convinced, and therefore projects can really stall. And to put this in the context of recent changes, really, on top of all of that, the system itself is becoming even more complex with the emergence of new technologies and modalities. So drug discovery, as we used to know it, has really undergone significant transformations in recent years. We're moving from the traditional way, the conventional way of doing drug discovery with small molecules to more innovative technology-driven approaches. So if you think about recent technological breakthroughs such as AI, machine learning, omics, sophisticated microscopy tools that would allow you to visualize things that you could never see before, that really fundamentally changed drug discovery because they created that new opportunity to go after complex biological targets. They kind of unlocked biology that has been considered for decades historically as intractable or undruggable. And because this is a complex biology, traditional small molecules cannot always address these complex targets. So we're seeing a new generation of medicines or modalities. Examples are protein degradation, for example, or oligonucleotide, cell and gene therapies, radiopharmaceuticals, etc. The list is really long. And while this is really great news for patients, for the sector, for the economy, it does introduce significant developmental challenges, and that adds more layers of complexities. For example, we need to design more sophisticated drug delivery systems or establish novel manufacturing and quality control processes. We need our regulatory landscape to evolve and adapt to therapies with new mechanisms of actions, right? So each of these breakthroughs come with its own sets of unknowns. And in fact, if you look at the drug approvals, this is 2024. So the numbers have gone up probably, but 30% of these are biologics and only 1 in 3 is a small molecule. And this is also in line with an analysis that we performed at Medicine Discovery Catapult using global data, where we looked at the state of the discovery nation, and we could clearly see a major fraction of these drugs in the pipeline of SMEs and large pharma being biologics or complex medicines. This really tells a little bit more about the landscape in general and shows a clear pivot toward new drug modalities. And that signals also that the industry is looking for diversity, but also technology integration. And as an organization that needs to be always adapting to innovation, that help us figure out what are the areas we need to tackle and how we want to support those early innovations move forward. Now, as part of this webinar, I really wanted to highlight something really important. We think it's important really to recognize the central role that early stage innovators have played in driving this shift over the last years. Most of these breakthroughs I've mentioned, they did not start in large pharma. It's in universities and small research groups that new technologies and new pathways, disease mechanisms are usually uncovered. And this is usually years before anyone realized that clinical relevance. So whatever study you look at or analysis you perform, the conclusion is the same. Early stage innovations are the bedrock of modern medicine. Hundreds of approved drugs or products trace their origins, at least in part, to public sector research. Almost, if not more, 70% of the papers cited in US industry patents come from academic science. And even if it's sometimes really hard to draw a direct line from an FDA-approved drug back to a university lab, the impact is undeniable. And this reality also led to some shifts in the system. So pharma's mindset has shifted, for example. They now have increasing needs to look outward for fresh ideas. Many drug discovery skills became democratized and broadly distributed. And even funders of research now recognize the growing need and opportunities to move projects along the translational pipeline. So early stage innovation is really the bedrock of modern medicines, but also this is where risk is highest and translational support is the lowest. And these, academic research and early stage high risk innovations do not usually move directly to the clinic. So there's a middle layer, which is in general small, medium enterprise and emerging technologies and biotech. And they drive the majority of the early stage pipelines. So when we looked at the drug asset distribution in discovery and development in small, medium enterprises and large pharma, SMEs were found to be responsible for a record 80% of the molecules in R&D pipeline at the discovery stage. So these early stage innovations are the engine for the discovery of new therapeutics, but many of them struggle to progress and go beyond that. And then I was attempting really to simplify the way we think about this system challenge. If you step back and look at how the system as a whole functions in a very simplified terms, in theory, innovation should be a fairly smooth, linear journey. You invest a little, you generate data, you reduce risk, you invest more, and steadily move from the idea towards a product. That's what we consider as an ideal situation. The reality looks much more different than that. So in practice, actually, progress happens in jumps. It's more of a step function rather than a straight line. And at each step, what you're doing is that when you turn a concept into a product that requires significant resources, capabilities, and expertise, of course, the potential rewards are high, but so are the risks. And if not successful, actually, the consequence of that is you fall back down the cliff and you lose all of the time and resources you have spent. And if you zoom into that, to think a little bit about what are the set of practical gaps actually contributing to this. Obviously, there are a number of them, but what we consistently see as an organization working across the nation, we work with a range of organizations, and what we consistently see comes down to three gaps. Well, first, there is an experience gap. Many innovators, especially first-time founders, haven't taken a program to the clinic before. So at the same time, the science is becoming increasingly complex, as I was describing earlier, and the traditional playbooks don't just apply anymore. The second one is an access gap, where access to the right tools, translational platforms and models and data is limited or fragmented and constrained, which are very crucial to unlock the potential of these technologies. And the third one is a navigation gap, really. So simply knowing what to do next, who to work with, it's often unclear. What is important about this is that none of these are about bad science. Science is most of the times really good. These are missing pieces around the science. And as I would expect, that leads to misallocated resources. So time, funding, and effort are spent on the wrong priorities. We have late risk identifications. They are surfaced too late, which increase cost and delay. And then we have a slower progress because it's unclear what our next steps should be or what should be prioritized. And there is a slow decision making, which delays the value inflection points, right? So if the problem is a combination of interconnected risks that need to be identified early, and it's combined with a fragmentation of the system, then one of the solutions should be an integrated approach, right? So one that allows risks to be identified and addressed early before they turn into bottlenecks. And that's exactly where organizations like Medicine Discovery Catapult can come in, where we integrate translational platforms. We take risks where others are not willing to take risks. We add on top of that the expertise through our consulting and advisory. We have the wide range of network of experts around us as well, and really support to access to funding. And we have the mechanisms to bring all of these pieces together across science, capabilities, and strategy to make that difference for the sector. And if I want to simplify what that difference would look like, that would allow us really to break the journey into smaller, de-risked steps, where you can test assumptions, you can learn quickly, and pivot early if needed. So that if something really does not go well, you can park it early or adapt or explore alternative approaches rather than really discovering this too late and contributing to the failure. So that's a really general overview and introduction. Before we start talking a little bit to you about Medicine Discovery Catapult, I'll now hand over to Philippa, actually, who's going to walk you through how we do this in practice at Medicine Discovery Catapult. And Philippa, feel free to let me know when I need to change the slide.
Thanks, Johnny. Okay, so as Johnny said, I'll just give a bit of an introduction to who we are. So broadly speaking, MDC is a National Life Sciences Service. And we're really looking to drive those pioneering breakthroughs that will ultimately lead to an improvement in patients' lives. So as Johnny said, we're looking to do this by de-risking new medicines discovery. We look to do that by providing access to technology, skills, and knowledge. We are a not-for-profit organisation, so we do reinvest back into the sector to ultimately drive growth in the space. So next slide, please, Johnny. So to give a little bit more information, we've been around, as Johnny said, for about 10 years now. I've actually been at MDC for about 8.5 years myself. We've got approximately 140 people based at MDC, all experts in their different fields. We're based in the Northwest at Alderley Park. And we are actually co-funded by the industry and the government. So we are partly funded by Innovate UK, as part of the Catapult network. So some people may or may not be familiar with the Catapult network. There are 9 catapults currently set up, partially funded by the UK government through Innovate UK. So obviously we are covering the medicines discovery space. We also work very closely with some of the other catapults like CPI, the high value manufacturing catapult, and cell and gene therapy, for example, as well as others. Next slide, please, Johnny. So we work across the medicines discovery field, really helping scientists at the frontier of drug discovery. So this includes working with SME therapeutic developers, as well as SMEs and biotech organizations. We work with technology innovators so that we can provide, provide technology that's at the forefront to help with our lab-based drug discovery work. We also work with academics. As Johnny's mentioned, a lot of the new therapies and so on are spun out of academia. So we really work with academics to help them do that, as well as looking at some of the other things that support and underpin the drug discovery process as a whole. We also work with large pharma and also with medical research charities. And ultimately, we're looking to help connect the whole UK life sciences sector so that we can create a healthier society and economy in this space. Thank you, Johnny. Next slide. So talking about how we can work together, MDC works with a variety of different organisations, as I've mentioned, and we can do this in a few different ways. We like to remain flexible as needed, but there are two main ways that we work with organisations on a project basis. So this is a fee-for-service format. So this is essentially where MDC works on a more commercial basis, offering a service. So this is quite a clear-cut way of working together where companies and organisations already have funding available. Then where there is perhaps not funding available, or we want to do something slightly different, we are also able to work on grant-funded opportunities. And there is, again, a couple of different ways that we can do this, either as a subcontractor, which ultimately ends up with MDC providing, similarly to fee-for-service, a service. But the funding for this is ultimately coming from the grant application, or MDC can partner on grant applications. And where MDC is partnering on applications, we'll also be seeking to develop some of our methods or our IP assets that will ultimately then help to, with us continuing to support SMEs in the drug discovery process. Next slide, please, Johnny. So MDC is a research technology organisation, and this means that we are able to access a variety of different funding opportunities. We can be leads or co-leads on a range of these opportunities. So we have some projects where we're working with MRC funding, a variety of different Innovate UK funds with SMEs, and we've also recently acquired knowledge base status. So this means that we can work on knowledge transfer partnerships, so working with graduates coming out of university and then helping to support new companies and SMEs by transferring MDC's knowledge, either on practical lab-based skills or through our R&D consultancy team, which Johnny will describe in a bit more detail later on. We also work with charitable funds, so we have collaborative projects where we're accessing charitable funding. And we're also now starting to look at European funding, and this is really around that kind of understanding of the change in the funding landscape and looking at alternative mechanisms that we can bring additional funding into the UK for drug discovery. So again, we can look at providing lab-based support for this, or we can also provide the wraparound support through Johnny's team for understanding commercialisation and road mapping as necessary for SMEs looking to apply for that funding. Okay, next slide, please, Johnny. So to describe a little bit more about what's available at MDC, we have three main lab-based teams. So this includes in vitro biology, translational medicine or biomarkers, and in vivo biology. And the offering that they provide spans much of the pipeline of drug discovery, I would say. So working with preclinical models, cell models, and a range of different technologies that I'll describe in a little bit more detail in a moment. We also have an R&D consultancy team that Johnny will describe in a moment too, and a global challenges team. So the global challenges team are really set up to help deliver national programs on key areas of unmet need. So an example of this would be our PACE initiative that is set up in collaboration and funded by LifeArc and Innovate UK. And this is looking at the real need for addressing antimicrobial resistance and working with SMEs and helping to provide funding and expertise to forward their therapies and their answers to antimicrobial resistance. So ultimately, we're looking to improve predictability, help make better decisions in the drug discovery pipeline, to provide commercial acumen to help companies get investment ready, again, connect the life sciences ecosystem through our global challenges, and to help provide expertise and technology to organisations to be able to facilitate this. Next slide, please, Johnny. So to give a little bit more detail, some of the technologies and capabilities that we have that underpinning these different teams include preclinical imaging. So this includes things like PET-CT, IVIS and near-infrared. And we also now have a radiochemistry capability as things are starting to grow, as Johnny mentioned, in the radiopharma space as well. And we help to answer a number of different questions for people that may come to us. So we can look at things like helping define the mechanism of action, looking at efficacy for therapeutics, and also looking at target engagement. And in order to do this, as I said, we have preclinical models from rodent models, but also through to cell models, and then a range of technologies to help facilitate the endpoint analysis, including advanced microscopy. We're able to do multi-omic profiling through mass spectrometry and other technologies. And we can also then provide spatial analysis to take this a little bit further to get a little bit more context to what we're looking at. And again, this can be applied across a range of different medicines, from complex medicines to your more traditional therapeutics as well. Okay, so I think that's a little bit from me, and I think I'm now handing back over to Johnny to describe R&D consultancy in a little bit more detail. Thank you.
Thanks, Philippa. So for the sake of today, what I think would be good is actually to focus on one of our capabilities in a little bit more detail, which is the consultancy capability, which is a key one at Medicine Discovery Catapult that support not only entrepreneurial scientists, but also regional hubs and clusters. At Medicine Discovery Catapult, we have that incredible privilege to access, I would say, a big chunk of the UK pipeline of drug discovery and therapeutics under development, from academic labs to early stage companies. But more importantly, actually, we have the opportunity to engage with them and help them shape their R&D strategy. And what we do is that actually we come at an ecosystem sector cluster level. So we engage with and support scientific hubs, clusters, accelerators across the UK. Last year only, I think the R&D consulting team engaged with over 15 regional hubs, accelerators across the whole of the UK. And through this engagement, we work with a range of innovators across academia, SMEs, and this spans a range of disease indications, technologies, and modalities. And through this engagements and work we're doing, actually what we found was a very effective way that innovators are finding really helpful is to help them shape their R&D roadmap. So in other words, we work together to bring the right expertise to map where they are today, where they need to be, considering unmet needs, market dynamics, standard of care, and draft a roadmap to get there. And through that, we can identify potential risks that are associated with this roadmap and suggest ways to de-risk the path so they can get to the next value inflection point faster and safer. And most important, to really be attractive to investment and partnerships who would be key to take that technology forward. And really, this road mapping is about supporting the translation of these ideas into, as I mentioned earlier, a sequence of kind of testable and fundable milestones. So they are extremely helpful to prioritize experiments and spending, but also they give investors and potential partners line of sight to value inflection points, which shows them exactly how the technology progress leads to commercial opportunity. The way we do this is through our extensive internal expertise. We have really strong internal expertise from academia, biotech, and pharma who know how to take a drug to the market across different aspects. and our expertise span disease areas and modalities. But in addition to our internal expertise, we have curated an expert network around us across a range of areas that we don't necessarily have internally, and really span, as Philippa mentioned earlier, from target all the way to the regulatory support and clinical insights. So we provide that support to the traditional small molecules, but also we have a focus on more complex modalities. We have a lot in terms of delivery systems in the radiopharmaceutical space, but even platform that could be harnessed for therapeutic development. We do also work with investors, and we provide due diligence to support investment decisions. And in this way, we see it as a bridge, really, from the two sides, to bridge the innovations to capital at the same time. So we have a wide range of things we can do. I don't want to take you today through all of our offerings or what we can do, but one critical way I think is really important to mention we do is, and it's at the core of how we de-risk innovations, that we anchor everything around a very simple question, right? So are we building the right drug for the right patient in the right way? And one of the most useful ways, I would say, to think about de-risking drug discovery come from a large analysis from industry pipelines, trying to understand why so many programs fail. What they found is that success isn't random. It consistently comes down to getting a few critical things right. And this is what is often referred to as the 5R framework. So first, we think about the right target. It's really about answering some questions around, do we actually understand the biology? Is there a strong link to disease, for example? But also it's about the right tissue. Can the drug reach where it needs to act? Are we confident enough it's engaging with the right target? It's about a safety. Do we have a clear and acceptable safety margin for the intended use? But also it's about the patient and the commercial potential, right? So are we testing this in the population who most likely to respond? Or does this actually translate into a differentiated medicine that will be adopted in the real world? So really trying to address a number of questions. Underneath each one of these, obviously, there are a lot of details. But what is powerful behind this is the idea that if any of these is weak, the whole program could be at risk. So in practice, we use this in terms of our de-risking, and it's really about systematically building that confidence across each of these areas at the right time and early enough to make decisions that change the trajectory of the program with as minimum cost as possible. And more recently, we started to think more broadly about a 6R, actually, which is the right data. We know how important data has become. And it's really about leveraging that clinical insight to inform the preclinical models, for example, which enables us to reverse translate from the clinic back to discovery. So we start with the endpoint and go backward. And this is kind of really at the core of a lot of activities we run as part of the consultancy offering. So now what I would like to do is really take you through a couple very, very high-level anonymized cases just to give you a bit of flavor of the type of projects we work on and how we help science move in principle from interesting to potentially investable. So in this first case, a team who had developed an AI predictive platform has identified a novel CNS target. The science was really promising, but obviously before any investor or industry partner could engage, they needed to demonstrate a few things, including translatability, the mode of action, differentiation, but also a clear line of sight to the target product profile. And through that exercise, when we spent time with them understanding the needs, really we identified a number of key potential risks they need to address. First one is really proving that the target is actually linked to the disease biology, but also defining with them the modality and the assay cascade to show that it's druggable. And third, really establishing a credible path to the product, what would successfully look like in the clinic or commercially. And we spent time focused on building that evidence base, which we evaluated target translatability using internal and public data. We differentiated the mechanism from existing therapies, and drafted a developmental plan, including biomarkers and functional endpoints. So the idea was really to get the team to be better equipped with a target validation evidence, cascade of assays, and a developmental roadmap, taking into account all of the risks they need to be addressed all the way to clinical candidate. And we have also provided them with access to our translational labs for areas that could be executed internally, but also our network of CROs. CROs we trust, we work with across a number of areas to generate the relevant data so they can be positioned strongly when they speak with investors or partners. The other case is quite similar, really. So we help the team, for example, de-risk a path to take a repurposing candidate to a rare disease indication that was a little bit more on the other side of the spectrum. The group had identified a repurposing opportunity using a multi-omics and imaging approach, but the translational and the regulatory, especially regulatory strategy, were still not very clearly defined. So the priority areas really based on the gap analysis were found to be around those translatability. Could the molecule reach the right tissues and modulate the biology in vivo, but also route to the clinic? So particularly taking into account some rare disease considerations. And, in this case, for example, we have worked with external expertise. Our approach focused on bringing together those new experimental data with existing preclinical, clinical literature data to confirm the rationale. We also ran a regulatory gap analysis and a roundtable with external experts to map the clinical path. Again, in this case, the team had a developmental plan, including insights into that TPP combined with a regulatory guidance. So finally, what does this all add up to? The final slide really sums up the impact and value of what we do at Medicines Discovery Catapult across the different capabilities that Philippa has described. Our mission is really to translate UK innovation into new medicines faster, and these numbers or the results speak for themselves. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of these stats because what this really shows is not just the outputs, but it's about, again, de-risking scientific innovations as crucial to unlock the medicines of the future. When you reduce risks early, things start to move, projects progress, investment follows, and partnerships could happen. So, for instance, a lot of these SMEs, after they engaged with ARTS, they went on to secure 1.9 billion over the last years. We worked at MDC in additional funding. We worked on over 400 partnered R&D projects so far, etc. So it's really our job to help great science survive long enough to become a medicine in the future and have an impact on patient. I guess with this, this is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening. We'd be very happy to take any questions you have.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to you both for that excellent presentation. And wow, what quite an impressive array of statistics there at the end as well, just to show the breadth of different things and support that you have there. Any questions for Johnny or Philippa? Feel free to put them in the chat or just shout out, put your hand up and shout out. There we go. If I leave it long enough, someone always pops one in. Thank you very much, Ronald. Who do we contact to discuss a new discovery? I guess, are you an academic? Or are you a company? Or is it different routes for either?
I guess I can probably answer that one. So, so if you you can reach out to us through the website. So there is an MDC info email address on there, and you can put a little bit of information in there about your discovery and the kind of thing that you're looking for some support with, and then that enables us to pass it on to the appropriate group at MDC. So that's probably the easiest way in, I think.
Okay, yeah, and he's just clarified his company working with partners in the UK.
Perfect, yeah. So I think that's probably the best way forward, and then either myself or some of our business development colleagues will pick it up in collaboration with some of our tech leads.
Brilliant, thank you very much. We have one here for oh, I've just lost it. Hang on one sec. For TPP. So that's target profile. I forgot performance.
Yes, target product profile.
Yeah. TPP and commercialization strategy de-risk. Would you provide any health economics expertise?
So as I mentioned earlier, obviously MDCs focus on a wide range of aspects internally, but we have also an extensive external support network. So we can definitely provide that through our external support network. So we know the right people to do that. So obviously it's not at the core of what we offer, but we can definitely help you get access to that. So we are here to support really the sector. Not only support the innovators, but also the overall sector. We're talking about CROs, we're talking about consultancy firms, we're talking about anyone really working in the life science therapeutic side of things. And I would say always reach out, and then we can have a chat, and then we can, if we cannot do it ourselves, we can direct you most of the times to the right people to work with you. But this is something we can cover as well. And actually, as part of PACE, the national program that Philippa has described, they have not only therapeutics, there is a wide range of diagnostics as well. It's an area we can also help with, and they do a lot of these health economics as part of that. So it's definitely something we can help with.
Yeah, and as the comment in the chat says, health economics is a critical step early to de-risk.
It's part of the commercialization. And
yeah.
we're glad to see this, because as scientists and technologists, and I was there at some point when I was spinning out a company years ago, we tend to focus very much on our science and technology, but we don't want to end up with a sound technology that nobody wants to use. And this is really why it's important to start thinking beyond that and take the overall picture and think in the future and identify potential areas that need to be thought through at the right time so they don't become big bottlenecks, including, the health economics aspects that is mentioned here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's what problem you're solving, as well as can you make it commercially viable or achievable as a product or medicine. Okay, I think there's also quite a lot of help and support on health economics through Health Innovation Manchester as well, which IBIC can help connect you with as well. Clearly, obviously, they're another partner within our ecosystem within Manchester. I've got a question around, as an academic, one I can see sort of the pathway in for support if we're looking to develop out a new product and help with some advice and then connections out thereafter. What support or routes in could MDC help academics with in terms of building out grant applications and building out networks for larger consortium projects?
Philippa, do you want to take this one? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I guess it depends on the area, and it depends on the scope of activity. So we have partnered or co-led on applications with academics. So if it's a specific area that MDC covers in our lab-based capability, we can co-lead and partner on them to help, or we can go on as advisors as well to support this. And if it's something that's not MDC's kind of day-to-day or strategy, we can also find other mechanisms. We can also subcontract on things. It just depends on the particular question at hand and what the academic is looking to achieve. So we have a vast network as well in terms of building consortia of different colleagues in the drug discovery space. So depending on the area that's looking to be addressed, we can also provide access to this. So if MDC is joining a consortium bid, for example, we'll also bring our network with us to that as well, and can provide help on that front too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. If any other final questions? No, I think you've demonstrated that you gave a wealth of information there that has helped inform everyone here, whether you're live or you'll be watching on the YouTube channel. So thank you very much to you both. It's been great to hear about the capability of MDC, and of course it's just on our doorstep. We're sitting in Manchester, and you guys are in Alderley Park in Cheshire. So yeah, thank you very much for your time and the great webinar today. So thank you very much. So just before we finish, brilliant. Thank you, Johnny. Just before we finish, I will do a shout out to some of the funding schemes and things that we have, as well as our upcoming webinars. So we have, as I said before, we've got our YouTube channel, so you can catch up with them. We have got next month in May, we have got Phil Shapira and Adam McCarthy, who are coming to talk to us about scaling with purpose, how manufacturing firms balance sustainability, responsibility and commercialization. So a very important and exciting talk, or very relevant talk there at the moment, from Phil and Adam in the 21st of May. So looking forward to that one. We are here to provide support and connections right across the Northwest biotech ecosystem, and we've got some cash to help us connect and build those partnerships. And we've got 5 different funding pots that you can build and collaborate on and access funds with. We have got everything from sort of partnership development, so building out a partnership between an academic and a industrial business engagement partner, or academic and external partner that's related to industrial biotech, up to 10k, lasts anything between 1 to 6 months, can be used for travel to help build that relationship, or some very early stage experiments to trial and explore and consolidate whether something's going to work or not. That can lead on to innovation acceleration projects, which are sort of typically proof of concept funding, so up to 30k, and it can take up to 12 months to sort of spend that money to generate the impact. Secondment exchanges are up to 60k, and that's where we can have an academic or a postdoc going out to work in a company for a period of time up to 12 months, or we can take someone from a company to come and access facilities within the university, access expertise to help knowledge exchange and help create that economic impact through new products, new processes, new knowledge, etc. If we've got academics on the call or listening in, we've got commercialization pot up to 50k, which we can use to help nurture and grow ideas that have got potential for commercialization and move them on to sort of that next milestone on their journey. And we've also got up to 5k pots of funding if you want to start to build out a network or bring people together around a specific topic or challenge area. Then we can provide funding and support to bring that community together, whether it be through a little bit of travel, food, just to help grease the wheels of building out those connections. Next funding dates are on the bottom. The next funding cutoff date is the 11th of June, and we run these quarterly. So feel free to apply anytime. And please do reach out to our team who are on the call for questions around that. We've got Sabina, Jen and Luana here today. And the last but not least, if you are an academic and you're looking to build out that commercialization or explore the potential of your technology, we are running a dedicated iCure Discover programme, so the Innovation and Commercialisation of University Research programme, funded through Innovate UK, 8-week part-time programme, up to 2.5k, support for exploring customer discovery and testing your market assumptions. And then that gives you a fast track route through to the Explore and Exploit training programs of iCure, which then fast track you onto that venture builder for a 6-figure investment and funding, grant funding for your ideas. So a great way to build out commercialization knowledge and build out a pipeline to lead you on to hopefully some commercial money to help you realize that idea through to impact. I'll leave it there. These are how you can stay in touch with us. Reach out if you've got any questions for the team. Join our LinkedIn website, LinkedIn profile to keep up to date. Check out our new website with most up-to-date information, grant call information, and event program. So hope to see you at another event in the near future. And thank you very much for joining, and see you all soon. enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.